Ryan Carter stood outside the emergency room doors at midnight, hands shaking, phone pressed to his ear as a lawyer's cold voice delivered the final blow. "Mr. Carter, without stable housing and income, the court has no choice. Your daughter will be placed in your ex-wife's custody effective Monday morning." He hung up. 4 days. He had 4 days before he lost Emma forever. The medical bills stuffed in his pockets felt like stones pulling him underwater. He was drowning. No job, no home, no hope. And then a woman's voice cut through the dark. "You look like someone who'd do anything for the right price. Welcome to my story. If you're watching, follow it all the way to the end and drop a comment with your city name so I can see how far this story travels." Ryan turned, startled. The woman stood a few feet away beneath the fluorescent hospital entrance lights, her posture too straight, her coat too expensive for this neighborhood. Mid-20s maybe, with dark hair pulled back tight and eyes that seemed to calculate more than observe. She didn't smile, didn't soften her expression, just looked at him the way someone might assess a used car. "Excuse me?" Ryan managed, wiping at his face quickly. He hadn't realized he'd been crying. "I've been watching you for 20 minutes, she said simply. "You've made 6 phone calls. 2 to lawyers, 1 to what sounded like a landlord, 1 to someone named Jenna, who I assume is your ex-wife based on how that went, and 2 to hospitals about medical payment plans. You're in trouble. Deep trouble." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Who the hell are you?" "Elena Vaughn." She stepped closer, and now he could see the weariness behind her composed exterior. "And I have a proposition that'll sound insane, but I need you to hear me out. I don't have time for— Your daughter's name is Emma. She's 6. She was in this hospital 3 months ago for appendicitis. The surgery and complications cost you $47,000. You lost your construction job because you missed too many shifts sitting by her bedside. Your landlord filed eviction papers last week. Your ex-wife's attorney just filed an emergency custody modification based on your current housing instability." Elena paused. "Am I close?" Ryan felt something cold slide down his spine. "How do you know that?" "Because I needed to know if you were the right kind of desperate." Elena crossed her arms. "I need a husband. Not a real one. A convincing one. For 1 year. You play the role perfectly, and I'll pay off every cent of your debt, put you in stable housing, and make sure your custody case gets buried so deep your ex-wife's lawyer will think twice about ever challenging you again." The words didn't make sense. Ryan stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. "This is— what, some kind of scam?" "No scam. A contract." Elena reached into her bag and pulled out a slim folder. "I'm the majority shareholder of Vaughn Industries. Or I will be. Once I turn 26 in 8 months. My grandfather's will requires that I be married to claim my shares. If I'm not, control defaults to my Uncle Gerald, who's been circling like a vulture for 5 years waiting for exactly that. I can't let that happen. Can't let—" Ryan shook his head slowly. "You're telling me you're some kind of heiress and you need to hire a fake husband? You're out of your mind." "Probably," Elena admitted. "But you're out of options, so here's what happens. You say yes, we get legally married tomorrow afternoon at City Hall. You move into my apartment, you show up to the functions I need you at, you act like a devoted husband in public, and in private we live completely separate lives. 1 year. Then we divorce quietly, you walk away debt-free with full custody of your daughter, and I keep my company from being gutted by a man who thinks women belong in the kitchen, not the boardroom." Ryan's mind reeled. Why me? You could hire an actor, someone who actually knows how to— "Because actors lie for a living and liars get caught." Elena's voice was sharp now. "I need someone real, someone who has everything to lose if this fails, someone who will fight like hell to protect what matters to him." She nodded toward the hospital entrance. "You were here 3 hours tonight sitting with Mrs. Chen from 4B. She's not family. You just knew she was alone and scared. Before that, you helped a nurse carry supplies because you saw she was overwhelmed. You're a good man in a bad situation, Ryan Carter. That's exactly what I need." "This is insane," Ryan breathed. "It is," Elena agreed. "But you have 72 hours before you lose your daughter. I'm offering you a way out, the only way out." She held out the folder. "Read it tonight. Call the number on the card if you're in. We'll handle everything else." She turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, I know what it's like to fight for something that matters more than yourself. I wouldn't ask this if I had another choice. And then she was gone, disappearing into a black sedan that pulled up smoothly to the curb. Ryan stood there holding the folder like it might explode. The words on the front were embossed in gold. Confidential marriage contract proposal. He didn't sleep that night. Ryan sat at the wobbly kitchen table in the apartment he'd be evicted from in 6 days, reading the contract over and over. It was real. Frighteningly, meticulously real. The payment structure, the non-disclosure agreements, the terms of dissolution. Everything laid out in cold legal language that somehow made the whole insane idea feel almost possible. Attached to the back was a background check on him. Everything Elena had recited earlier, plus details he'd forgotten himself. His military service, his daughter's medical history, even a psychological evaluation note from when he'd briefly seen a VA counselor after his deployment. She'd done her homework. His phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. The lawyer says we can move the hearing up if you can't provide stable housing by Friday. Just give me Emma, Ryan. Stop making this harder than it has to be. His hands clenched around the phone. Jenna had remarried last year. A finance guy named Patrick with a house in the suburbs and a job that didn't require him to choose between paying rent and keeping the lights on. She wasn't cruel, wasn't even wrong to worry. But Emma was his entire world. The thought of seeing her only every other weekend, of becoming a visitor in her life instead of her father. He looked at the contract again. At 6 a.m., he called the number. Elena answered on the second ring, her voice clear and alert like she'd been awake for hours. Yes or no, Ryan? I have conditions, he said. I'm listening. Emma comes first, always. I need to be able to pick her up from school, take her to her doctor appointments, all of it. Your events and obligations work around her schedule, not the other way around. Agreed. And she meets you before any of this happens. If she's uncomfortable, the whole thing's off. There was a pause. You'd walk away from this if a 6-year-old doesn't like me? Without hesitation. Another pause, longer this time. Then, okay, we'll meet her today, somewhere neutral. You pick the place. Riverside Park, 2 o'clock. There's a playground near the fountain. I'll be there. Elena's voice softened slightly. For what it's worth, Ryan, I respect that. A lot of men wouldn't put their kids first in a situation like this. Then you've been meeting the wrong kind of men. Yeah, Elena said quietly. I really have. Emma was already at the playground when Ryan arrived, under the supervision of his neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, who watched her after school on the days Ryan worked late. She spotted him and came running, blonde pigtails flying, her gap-toothed smile making his chest ache. Daddy! She crashed into his legs and he scooped her up, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Hey, little bug, you have a good day. We made volcanoes in science. Mine exploded everywhere, and Mrs. Patterson said it was enthusiastic. Emma grinned proudly. That's my girl, making a mess in the name of science. He set her down gently. Hey, so I have someone I want you to meet. Her name is Elena. She's a friend. Is that okay? Emma's face grew serious in that way kids do when they sense something important. Is she nice? I think so. But I want you to tell me what you think, okay? Emma slipped her small hand into his. I'm good at telling if people are nice. Sarah's mom brings cookies, but she's not actually nice because she talks mean about the other moms when they leave. That's called two-faced. I heard Mrs. Rodriguez say it. Ryan bit back a smile. You're absolutely right. Come on. Elena was sitting on a bench near the fountain, and she stood when she saw them approaching. She'd changed from last night. Jeans, a simple sweater, no jewelry except small earrings. Trying to look approachable, Ryan realized. Trying not to seem like someone from a completely different world. Hi, Elena said, and Ryan could hear the nervousness she was trying to hide. You must be Emma. Emma studied her with unnerving intensity. You're pretty. Are you Daddy's girlfriend? Elena glanced at Ryan, clearly not expecting such directness. Well, we're getting to know each other, Ryan interjected carefully. Still figuring things out. My mom has a boyfriend named Patrick, Emma announced. He's okay, but he tries too hard. He bought me a giant stuffed unicorn that doesn't even fit in my room and keeps asking if I like him. Do you try too hard? Elena blinked, then something like a real smile crossed her face. I don't think I try hard enough usually. People tell me I'm kind of stiff. You do stand really straight, Emma observed, like a soldier. Your dad was a soldier, Elena said. Did he teach you about that? A little. He doesn't like to talk about it much. Emma tilted her head. Do you like playgrounds? Honestly, I haven't been to one in about 20 years. That's sad, Emma said matter-of-factly. Come on, I'll show you the good swings. And just like that, she grabbed Elena's hand and pulled her toward the swing set. Ryan watched, something strange and tight unwinding in his chest as Emma chattered away, pointing out the spiderweb climbing structure and the slide that went super fast if you go down on your stomach even though you're not supposed to. Elena listened with an attention that seemed almost desperate, like she was trying to memorize every word. When Emma insisted she push her on the swing, Elena looked panicked for a second before figuring out the motion, her pushes careful and measured. Higher, Emma called. I don't want you to fall. I won't fall. Daddy pushes way higher. Elena shot Ryan a look that was half plea, half challenge. He shrugged, grinning. She's tougher than she looks. Elena pushed harder, and Emma shrieked with delight, her laughter echoing across the playground. After 40 minutes, Emma declared she was hungry, and they walked to a food truck near the park entrance. Emma ordered a hot dog with everything except onions because they're slimy, and somehow convinced Elena to get the same. I usually don't eat, Elena started. Street food? Ryan supplied. Anything that isn't on a catered menu, Elena admitted. My assistant handles my meals. That's weird, Emma said through a mouthful of hot dog. What if you want pizza? Then my assistant orders pizza. What if you want it at midnight? Elena paused. I've never wanted pizza at midnight. You should try it, Emma said seriously. It tastes different when you're not supposed to be awake. Better. Elena looked at Ryan over Emma's head, and something passed between them. An understanding, maybe, that this little girl was wiser than both of them combined. When Mrs. Rodriguez came to collect Emma an hour later, the little girl hugged Ryan tight, then surprised both adults by hugging Elena too. You're nice, Emma whispered to her. You listen good, not like you're pretending. Elena looked stricken for a moment, her composure cracking. Thank you, Emma. As Mrs. Rodriguez led Emma away, the little girl called back, Bye, Daddy. Bye, Elena. You should come play again. When they were alone, Elena sat back down on the bench, staring at her hands. She's extraordinary. Yeah, Ryan said quietly. She is. I can't, Elena's voice caught. I can't be the reason you lose her, Ryan. If this doesn't work, if we get caught and it makes things worse for you, it won't, Ryan said firmly. Because we're going to do this right, for her. Elena looked up at him, and he saw something raw in her expression. Loneliness, maybe. Or recognition. Like she'd spent so long pretending to be strong that she'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone actually stand with her. Okay, she said. Let's do this right. They got married on a Thursday afternoon at City Hall. No guests, no flowers, no music. Just a tired clerk who'd clearly performed this ceremony 100 times, and two people who barely knew each other making legally binding promises neither of them believed in. Ryan wore the one suit he owned, the same one he'd worn to job interviews and Emma's kindergarten graduation. Elena wore a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than his rent, but looked almost plain in the fluorescent lighting. When the clerk asked if they had rings, Elena produced 2 simple gold bands from her purse. Ryan stared at them. I had them made yesterday, she said quietly. We need to look legitimate. The metal was warm when she slid it onto his finger. His hand shook slightly when he returned the gesture. You may kiss the bride, the clerk droned. They both froze. They hadn't discussed this part. Elena leaned in quickly, pressing her lips to his in a kiss that lasted maybe 2 seconds. It was awkward, mechanical, nothing like a real wedding kiss. But when she pulled back, her cheeks were flushed, and Ryan felt something strange flutter in his chest. Congratulations, the clerk said without enthusiasm, stamping their certificate. They walked out into the afternoon sunlight as husband and wife. That was the least romantic thing I've ever experienced, Elena said. Yeah, Ryan agreed. Me too. And I've been married before. She laughed, a real laugh, startled out of her. We're terrible at this. We'll get better, Ryan said. We have to. Nah. Elena's apartment wasn't an apartment. It was a penthouse that took up the entire top floor of a building in the financial district. All glass walls and minimalist furniture, and a kitchen that looked like it had never been cooked in. Ryan stood in the entryway with his 2 duffel bags, everything he owned, and felt like he'd walked into a museum. The guest room is down that hall, Elena said, her voice echoing in the vast space. It has its own bathroom. I'll have someone bring Emma's things tomorrow once you've moved her in officially. This is... Ryan trailed off. Too much? Elena's expression was unreadable. I was going to say intimidating, but yeah, too much works. You'll get used to it. She walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water from a refrigerator that probably cost more than a car. There's food in the fridge. My assistant stocks it weekly. Help yourself to anything. Your assistant knows I exist? Marcy knows everything. She's also signed an NDA thicker than our marriage contract. You can trust her. Elena set down the glass. We need to go over the schedule. There's a charity gala Friday night, our first public appearance as a couple. You'll need a tuxedo. Marcy will arrange it. A tuxedo, Ryan repeated. You'll also need to memorize our story. How we met. How long we've been dating. When I proposed. You proposed? Statistically, it's more believable. I'm assertive, you're softer. People will buy it. Elena pulled out her phone, scrolling. I've drafted a timeline. We met 6 months ago at a hospital fundraiser. You were there volunteering. I was there representing the company. We bonded over a conversation about your daughter. I pursued you. You were hesitant because of the class difference, but eventually, love won out. Simple, clean, believable. Ryan felt his head spinning. This is insane. You know that, right? I'm aware. Elena looked at him directly. But we're doing it anyway. So we might as well do it well. He wanted to argue, wanted to point out all the ways this could go wrong. But then he thought of Emma, of the custody hearing that would now be postponed indefinitely, of the medical bills that would be paid off by the end of the week. Okay, he said. Teach me. They spent the next 3 hours going over the story, refining details, practicing responses to questions they might be asked. Elena was relentless, correcting him when he hesitated, pushing him to make the lies sound natural. You can't pause before saying you love me, she said for the 3rd time. It looks like you're trying to remember your line. I am trying to remember my line. Then try harder. She sighed, rubbing her temples. If we can't convince people at a gala, we'll never convince the board of directors. My uncle will tear this apart the first time someone asks you a simple question and you freeze. Maybe I need a better teacher, Ryan shot back, frustration rising. Elena's eyes flashed. Or maybe you need to take this seriously. This isn't a game, Ryan. If we fail, I lose my company. You lose your daughter. So stop acting like this is some impossible task and just what? Just pretend to be in love with someone I met 3 days ago? Just walk into a room full of people who'll see right through me and act like I belong there? Ryan stood, pacing. I'm a construction worker, Elena. I don't know how to be whoever you need me to be. You know how to be a father, Elena said quietly. You know how to show up for someone even when it's hard. That's all this is. Showing up for both of us. The anger drained out of him. She was right, damn her. Fine, he said. One more time, from the top. Friday night came too fast. Ryan stood in front of the mirror in his guest room, his room now, he supposed, wearing a tuxedo that fit so perfectly it had to have been tailored. He looked like someone else, someone who belonged in Elena's world. He hated it. Stop fidgeting, Elena said from the doorway. She wore a midnight blue gown that made her look untouchable, her hair swept up, diamonds at her ears. She looked beautiful and terrifying. I don't fidget, Ryan muttered. You've adjusted your bow tie 6 times in the last 2 minutes. She crossed the room, reached up, and fixed it with practiced efficiency. Her fingers brushed his collar, and he caught the scent of her perfume, something subtle and expensive. Nervous? She asked. Terrified. Good. That makes 2 of us. She stepped back, assessing him. You look perfect. Just remember to breathe and smile. People respond to smiling. I know how to smile, Elena. Do you? Because you've been scowling since Tuesday. He forced his mouth into something approximating a pleasant expression. Not like that. You look like you're in pain. She demonstrated, a soft, warm smile that transformed her face completely. Like this. Like you're genuinely happy to be somewhere. Ryan tried again, thinking of Emma's laugh at the playground. Better, Elena admitted. Hold on to that. Whatever you're thinking about right now, keep it close tonight. The gala was held at a historic hotel downtown. All marble columns and crystal chandeliers, and people who moved like they'd been born in formal wear. Ryan felt every eye on them as they entered, Elena's hand light on his arm. Smile, she murmured. We're in love, remember? He smiled, nodded at strangers, shook hands with men whose watches probably cost more than Emma's entire college fund would, and tried not to feel like a complete fraud. Elena! A woman in red swept toward them, all air kisses and artificial warmth. Darling, we've been dying to meet your mysterious husband. You've been keeping him all to yourself. Catherine, this is Ryan. Ryan, Catherine Whitmore. She's on the board of the Children's Hospital Foundation. Pleasure, Ryan said, shaking her hand. Catherine's eyes raked over him, assessing, calculating. So how did you two meet? Elena's been so secretive. Elena launched into their rehearsed story, and Ryan watched her perform, the way she touched his arm at just the right moments, the way she looked at him like he was the center of her universe. She was good, scarily good. And when did you know, Catherine pressed, that he was the one? Elena didn't miss a beat. When I saw him with his daughter, he has this patience, this gentleness. I'd never seen anything like it. I knew right then that he was different from anyone I'd ever met. It sounded true. That was the terrifying part. It sounded completely, utterly true. How romantic, Catherine cooed. Then turning to Ryan, and you? When did you know? Ryan's mind went blank. This wasn't in the script. Elena tensed almost imperceptibly beside him. He thought of Elena sitting on that park bench, watching Emma with an expression like she was witnessing something sacred. He thought of the way she'd laughed at the food truck, surprised by her own enjoyment. He thought of her correcting his bow tie an hour ago, her touch careful and sure. When she stopped trying so hard, he said quietly, when she let herself just be. Catherine's expression softened. Oh, that's lovely. Elena looked at him, something unreadable in her eyes. They navigated the rest of the evening in a careful dance, touching when eyes were on them, separating when they weren't. Ryan met what felt like hundreds of people whose names he'd never remember, all of them weighing and judging this unexpected marriage. And through it all, Elena played her part flawlessly. The devoted wife. The woman transformed by love. She was so convincing that Ryan almost believed it himself. Almost. It wasn't until they were in the car heading home, the city lights blurring past, that she finally dropped the mask. Her shoulders sagged. Her smile disappeared. That was exhausting, she said. You were perfect, Ryan admitted. I've had practice. My whole life is performing for people who want me to fail. She kicked off her heels, wincing. You did well. Better than I expected, honestly. Thanks, I think. That thing you said to Catherine, about me stopping trying, where did that come from? Ryan shrugged. I don't know. It just felt right. Elena was quiet for a long moment. No one's ever said anything like that to me before. What, the truth? Something kind, without wanting something in return. She stared out the window. Everyone in that room tonight was calculating, trying to figure out what advantage they could gain from this marriage. But you just answered honestly. It threw me off. Sorry? Don't be. She turned to look at him. It was nice, hearing something real in a room full of lies. The car pulled up to their building, and they rode the elevator in silence. When they reached the penthouse, Elena paused at the entrance to her room. Ryan, he turned. Thank you for tonight, for making this work. We're in this together, he said, for the next year anyway. Something flickered across her face. Disappointment, maybe, or resignation. Right. 1 year. She disappeared into her room, and Ryan stood alone in the vast living room, the echo of the gala still ringing in his ears. He looked down at the gold band on his finger, this symbol of a marriage that wasn't real, and wondered why it suddenly felt so heavy. Emma moved in the following Tuesday, her excitement bubbling over as she explored the penthouse. "This is like a castle," she shouted, running from room to room. "Daddy, look how big the windows are. You can see the whole city." Elena watched from the kitchen, a small smile playing at her lips. "Is this my room?" Emma appeared in the doorway of what had been a spare office, now transformed into a bedroom with a canopy bed and shelves full of books. "If you like it," Elena said, "we can change anything you want." "I love it," Emma launched herself at Elena, hugging her around the waist. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Elena's arms came up awkwardly, like she didn't quite know what to do with the affection. But then she hugged back, her expression softening in a way Ryan had never seen before. "You're welcome, sweetheart." Over dinner, pizza, at Emma's insistence, ordered at the highly inappropriate hour of 8 p.m., they fell into a strange kind of rhythm. Emma chattered about her day at school, Elena asked questions with genuine interest, and Ryan watched them both, marveling at how quickly his daughter had accepted this new normal. "Can Elena read me a bedtime story?" Emma asked when she'd finished her third slice. Ryan glanced at Elena, who looked momentarily panicked. I'm not very good at voices," Elena stammered. "That's okay. Daddy can't do voices either. He just reads the words boring." Emma grinned. "But I still like it." "Hey," Ryan protested weakly. 20 minutes later, Ryan stood outside Emma's door, listening to Elena's careful, measured voice reading Where the Wild Things Are. She really couldn't do voices. Every character sounded the same, but Emma didn't seem to mind, asking questions about the pictures, pointing out details Elena had missed. "Do you think Max's mom forgave him?" Emma asked sleepily. "I think parents forgive a lot," Elena said softly, "because they love you even when you're difficult." "Did your mom forgive you when you were difficult?" A pause. "My mother died when I was young, but I think she would have." "Oh." Emma was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry. That's sad. It was a long time ago." "Still sad, though. Everybody needs a mom." "Yeah," Elena said quietly. "They do." Ryan backed away before Emma could catch him eavesdropping. He was cleaning up the dinner mess when Elena emerged, looking drained. "She's asleep," Elena reported. "Thank you for that." "You didn't have to." "I wanted to." Elena leaned against the counter. "She asked about my mother. I don't usually talk about that." "You don't have to explain. She died when I was 7. Cancer. My father threw himself into work afterward, which eventually killed him too. Heart attack when I was 19. That's when I inherited everything. The company, the responsibility, the expectations." She rubbed her eyes. "I've been trying to prove I deserve it ever since." Ryan didn't know what to say. The script they'd rehearsed hadn't covered this. The real moments, the honest ones. "Emma's lucky," Elena continued, "to have a parent who actually fights for her, who puts her first. My father loved me, I think, but the company always came first. Always." "I'm sorry," Ryan said. "Don't be. It made me who I am. Strong, independent, impossible to work with, according to the board." She smiled wryly. "But Emma, she's so open, so trusting. How do you do that? How do you raise someone who isn't afraid to feel things?" "I don't know if I'm doing it right," Ryan admitted. "Half the time I'm terrified I'm screwing her up. But I figure, if she knows she's loved, really loved, maybe the rest will work itself out." Elena looked at him for a long moment. "You're a good father, Ryan." "I'm trying." "No," Elena said firmly. "You are. There's a difference." They stood in the kitchen, the silence between them no longer awkward, but something else. Something almost comfortable. "I should get some sleep," Elena said finally. "Board meeting in the morning. Marcy will bring Emma to school. You have that job interview at 10, right?" Ryan had almost forgotten. Elena had arranged it, some connection through her network. Construction management position, good pay, flexible hours. "Yeah, thanks for setting that up." "It's part of the deal," Elena said, but her voice was soft. "Good night, Ryan." "Good night." She disappeared down the hall, and Ryan finished cleaning, his mind turning over the evening. The way Emma had hugged Elena. The way Elena had looked reading that story, like she was discovering something she didn't know she'd been missing. This was supposed to be simple. A transaction. 1 year of pretending in exchange for security. But standing in this kitchen, in this life that wasn't really his, wearing a ring that didn't mean anything, Ryan felt the first stirrings of something complicated, something dangerous, something that felt an awful lot like real. The job interview went better than Ryan expected. The site manager, a gruff man named Bill Kowalski with permanently stained hands and a skeptical squint, looked over Ryan's resume and grunted approval at the military service notation. "Vaughn Industries put in a word for you," Bill said, leaning back in his chair. "That's why you're sitting here. But I don't hire people based on recommendations. I hire people who show up and do the work. You understand?" "Yes, sir," Ryan said. "Your record's solid. Good safety scores, no complaints from previous crews. But you've got a gap here, 3 months unemployed. What happened?" Ryan had rehearsed this answer with Elena, but the truth came out differently than planned. "My daughter was sick. I chose her over the job. I'd make the same choice again." Bill studied him for a long moment. "Kids come first. I get that. My son's got asthma. Scared the hell out of me when he was little." He tapped the resume. "You can start Monday, 6 a.m. Don't be late." Ryan felt something loosen in his chest. "Thank you. I won't let you down." "See that you don't?" When Ryan texted Elena the news, her response came back immediately. "Congratulations. Dinner tonight to celebrate?" He stared at the message, uncertain. They'd been living together for 2 weeks now, falling into a careful routine. Elena left early for the office, Ryan handled school drop-offs, Marcy coordinated everything else. They were polite roommates playing house. Dinner together felt like crossing some invisible line they'd been careful not to approach. But Emma would want to celebrate, he reasoned. It wasn't about him and Elena. It was about normalcy for his daughter. "Sure," he typed back. Emma picks the place. Emma, predictably, chose the Italian restaurant 3 blocks from their building, not because the food was exceptional, but because they had a dessert cart she'd been eyeing since they'd moved to the neighborhood. "Can I get tiramisu?" she asked before they'd even sat down. "After dinner," Ryan said automatically. "But what if I'm too full after dinner?" "Then you're too full for tiramisu." "That's impossible. There's always room for dessert. Elena, tell him." Elena looked caught between amusement and uncertainty. "I think your dad probably knows best." "See?" Ryan said. Emma huffed dramatically but picked up her menu. "Fine, but I'm getting the biggest piece." The restaurant was cozy. Dim lighting and checkered tablecloths, the kind of place that felt worn in rather than worn out. Elena looked out of place in her work clothes, tailored slacks and a silk blouse, but she'd loosened up over the past 2 weeks. Ryan had noticed small changes. She laughed more easily around Emma. She stopped checking her phone obsessively during meals. She'd even started keeping actual food in the refrigerator instead of relying entirely on Marcy's deliveries. "So when do you start?" Elena asked after they'd ordered. "Monday, 6 a.m. shift, which means I'll need to adjust Emma's morning routine." "Marcy can handle drop-off," Elena said. "She already offered." "I can do it. I'll just need to leave earlier." "Ryan, that's why we have help. Use it." He wanted to argue, but Emma interrupted. "I like when Marcy takes me. She lets me pick the music in the car. Daddy only plays boring news radio." "It's NPR," Ryan protested. "It's educational." "It's boring," Emma countered. "Marcy plays Taylor Swift." Elena smiled. "I think Emma's made her preference clear." "Traitor," Ryan muttered, but he was smiling too. The food came, and they ate while Emma regaled them with detailed updates about the ongoing drama in her first-grade classroom. Apparently someone named Jacob had declared himself king of the playground and was now embroiled in a territorial dispute with the second graders. "What do you think he should do?" Emma asked Elena seriously. "Jacob, I mean, because the second graders are bigger, but Jacob got there first." Elena considered this with the same focus she probably gave board meetings. "I think Jacob needs to learn that holding power isn't the same as earning respect. The second graders will eventually just ignore him if he keeps demanding authority he hasn't proven he deserves." Emma nodded slowly. "So he should be nicer?" "He should be strategic, find common ground, make them want to include him instead of forcing his way in." "That's really good advice," Ryan said quietly. Elena glanced at him. I've spent my entire career dealing with various versions of Playground Jacob. Corporate ones are just taller and wear better suits. Is that what your uncle is? Playground Jacob? Her expression tightened. Gerald is worse. He doesn't just want the playground, he wants to tear it down and build a parking lot. Emma looked confused but didn't press. Instead, she launched into a story about her art class, and the moment passed. But later, when Emma was distracted by the dessert cart making its rounds, Elena leaned closer to Ryan. I have to tell you something. Gerald's pushing for an emergency board meeting next week. He's claiming I'm unfit to lead because of erratic personal decisions. The marriage. He can't prove it's fake, but he doesn't have to. He just needs to plant enough doubt that the board questions my judgment. She kept her voice low, casual, like they were discussing the weather. We need to be more visible, more convincing. There's a company retreat this weekend, executive leadership and their spouses. We need to go. Together. Ryan's stomach sank. What kind of retreat? The kind where everyone pretends to do team-building exercises while actually positioning themselves for political advantage. It's at a resort upstate. 2 nights, black-tie dinner Saturday, golf, and networking Sunday. She paused. Emma can come, there's a kids program. I don't golf. Neither do most of the executives. That's not the point. The point is showing up, being seen, playing the part. Elena's fingers drummed against the table. Gerald will be there, watching, looking for cracks. And if he finds them, then everything falls apart. For both of us. Emma returned triumphantly with a plate of tiramisu the size of her head, and they dropped the conversation. But Ryan felt it hanging there between them for the rest of the meal. The weight of what they were doing, the fragility of their carefully constructed lie. That night, after Emma was asleep, Ryan found Elena in the living room with her laptop, still dressed for work even though it was past 11. You're going to burn out, he said. She didn't look up. I've been burning out for 5 years. Haven't collapsed yet. That's not something to be proud of. Isn't it? She finally met his eyes. In my world, the person who works hardest wins. The person who shows weakness loses everything. Ryan sat down across from her. Is that really what you believe? It's what I know. My father worked himself to death trying to prove the company could survive without my grandfather's iron fist. It killed him, but he succeeded. Now it's my turn to prove I can carry that legacy. If I fail, everything he sacrificed was for nothing. And if you succeed but destroy yourself in the process, what was the point? Elena's laugh was bitter. You sound like my therapist, the one I fired because I didn't have time for appointments. Maybe you should have kept her. Maybe. She closed the laptop. But then I wouldn't have had time to research desperate single fathers outside emergency rooms, and where would we be? It was meant to be light, but something in her tone felt off. Tired. Almost defeated. What happened today? Ryan asked. Besides Gerald's power play. Elena was quiet for a long moment. I had to fire someone. Maria Chen, she'd been with the company for 20 years. She made a mistake, a bad one, that cost us a major contract. The board demanded her termination. She rubbed her eyes. She cried in my office for 40 minutes. She has 3 kids, a mortgage. Her husband's disabled, and I sat there and explained why I had to destroy her life because of one error in judgment. Did you have a choice? There's always a choice. I could have fought the board, found another solution. But I didn't. I took the easy path because I'm too tired to fight every battle. She looked at him. Do you know what she said to me when she finally left? She said, I hope you never know what this feels like. And all I could think was that I already do. I know exactly what it feels like to watch your life fall apart because of someone else's decision. Ryan didn't know what to say. He'd seen Elena confident, calculating, in control. This version, raw and uncertain, was someone else entirely. You're not a bad person for making hard decisions, he said finally. Aren't I? Because it's getting easier every time. That's what scares me. How little it hurts now. Then you're not there yet. When it stops scaring you, that's when you should worry. Elena looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. How are you so sure about things? I'm not. I'm making this up as I go, same as you. He leaned back. But I know what it's like to make choices that feel impossible. To pick between bad and worse and hope you land somewhere you can live with. Being scared just means you still care about the outcome. Is that what kept you going when everything fell apart with your ex-wife and Emma's medical bills? Ryan nodded. I was terrified every single day. Still am, most mornings. But Emma needs me to show up anyway, so I do. That's all any of us can do. Show up and try not to break. I'm so tired of trying not to break, Elena whispered. Without thinking, Ryan reached across and took her hand. Her fingers were cold, trembling slightly. She stared at their joined hands like she couldn't quite believe they were real. You don't have to do this alone anymore, he said. That's the whole point of this arrangement, right? We show up for each other, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Elena's eyes were bright with unshed tears. This wasn't supposed to be real. It was supposed to be simple. I know. But it's not. It's getting complicated. Yeah, Ryan agreed quietly. It really is. She pulled her hand back, breaking the moment. I should sleep. Long day tomorrow. Elena. Good night, Ryan. She disappeared into her room, and Ryan sat alone in the darkened living room, his hand still warm from her touch, his heart doing something complicated and unwelcome in his chest. This was a mistake. He'd known it from the beginning, but now he could feel it crystallizing into something he couldn't take back. He was starting to care about Elena Vaughn as more than just his ticket to keeping Emma. He was starting to see her not as the Ice Queen heiress, but as a woman fighting desperately to prove she was enough. And that was dangerous. Because when this year ended, when they signed the divorce papers and went their separate ways, caring was going to make it hurt. He should pull back, keep distance, remember the contract. But even as he thought it, Ryan knew he wouldn't. Because Elena was right. It was already complicated. And some part of him, the part that had always been terrible at self-preservation, wanted to see where that complication led. The retreat was worse than Ryan imagined. The resort was the kind of place that used words like bespoke and curated without irony, all stone facades and manicured gardens and staff who appeared and disappeared like well-trained ghosts. Their suite had 2 bedrooms, Marcy had made sure of that, but the shared living space felt too intimate, too much like a real couple's vacation. Emma was thrilled. She'd made 3 friends within an hour of arriving and was currently engaged in what appeared to be an elaborate spy game involving the resort's hedge maze. She's going to be impossible to find when it's time for dinner, Ryan observed, watching from their balcony as Emma and her new allies disappeared around a corner. Elena stood beside him, dressed casually for once in jeans and a sweater, her hair down. She looked younger like this, less armored. The staff will find her, that's what we're paying for. But she smiled slightly, watching Emma's enthusiasm. She's fearless. Yeah, sometimes that terrifies me. You did that, gave her that confidence. Or I'm failing to teach her appropriate caution. No, Elena said firmly. You're teaching her the world is safe enough to explore. That's a gift. Before Ryan could respond, a voice called out from below. Elena, there you are! They both looked down. A woman in tennis whites waved enthusiastically, her smile sharp. Beside her stood a man in his 50s, silver-haired and assessing. That's Margaret Hastings, Elena muttered. Board member. The man is her husband, Thomas. He runs a hedge fund. They're Gerald's allies. Should we go down? We don't have a choice. 5 minutes later, they were making small talk in the garden. Margaret's questions coming rapid fire, while Thomas watched Ryan with barely concealed skepticism. So you're in construction? Margaret said, making it sound like a euphemism for something vaguely criminal. Construction management now, Ryan corrected politely. I start a new position Monday. How modern. And you two met at a fundraiser, Elena said. A hospital fundraiser, Elena confirmed, her hand finding Ryan's. Her fingers laced through his naturally, automatically. They'd practiced this. Ryan volunteers with pediatric patients. How charitable. Margaret's smile didn't reach her eyes. And the wedding was quite sudden, wasn't it? City Hall, no announcement beforehand. We didn't want a circus, Elena said smoothly. When you know, you know. Why wait? Indeed, although some might say it's wise to wait, to be sure. Margaret's gaze flickered to Ryan. No offense, of course. None taken, Ryan said, keeping his voice level. I know how it looks. Trust me, I questioned it myself. But Elena is the most remarkable person I've ever met. I wasn't going to let her get away because of other people's timelines. It was close enough to the script, but something in his delivery made it sound genuine. Elena's hand tightened around his. "How romantic," Margaret said dryly. "Thomas, we should let these newlyweds enjoy their afternoon. See you both at dinner." They walked away, and Elena finally released Ryan's hand. "That was good," she said. "You sold it." She didn't believe a word. "No, but she can't prove anything. That's what matters." Elena glanced at him. "Thank you for defending us." "I was defending you. There's a difference." Something shifted in her expression. "Is there?" Before Ryan could answer, Emma came tearing around the hedge, followed by her new friends. "Daddy! Elena! We found a secret passage! Come see!" The moment broke. They spent the next hour being dragged through the hedge maze, listening to elaborate theories about hidden treasure and ancient mysteries. By the time they headed back to prepare for dinner, Ryan's sides hurt from laughing at Emma's increasingly creative storytelling. "She gets that from you?" Elena said as they walked. "What, the lying?" "The storytelling, the way she makes people believe in things." Elena looked at him. "It's a gift." The black-tie dinner was an exercise in controlled torture. Ryan sat through 3 courses of food he couldn't pronounce, making conversation with people who looked at him like an interesting zoo exhibit. Elena played her role perfectly. The devoted wife, touching his arm, laughing at his observations, including him in conversations he barely understood. But across the table, Gerald Vaughn watched them with cold calculation. He was younger than Ryan expected, mid-40s, with Elena's same dark eyes, but none of her warmth. He'd greeted them politely enough, but his smile had the quality of a predator sizing up prey. "So, Ryan," Gerald said during the main course, his voice carrying across the table, "Elena tells me you were in the military. What branch?" "Army. Infantry." "Decorated?" "I did my job." "Modest. I like that." Gerald sipped his wine. "And after your service, you went into construction. Quite a shift." "I like building things. Working with my hands." "How blue-collar. Must be quite an adjustment, being married to someone in Elena's position. All these social obligations, these expectations." Ryan felt Elena tense beside him. He kept his voice even. "I'm learning. Elena's patient." "Is she?" Gerald's smile sharpened. "That's not how I'd describe my niece. Brilliant, certainly. Driven, but patient?" He looked directly at Elena. "You always were in such a hurry to prove yourself, Elena. Remember when you were 16 and demanded a position at the company? Father had to create an entire internship program just to accommodate you." "I wanted to learn the business," Elena said coolly. "You wanted to prove you were better than everyone else. Still do." Gerald leaned back. "It's admirable, really. This relentless need to show the world you deserve what you inherited. But I wonder, at what cost? What are you willing to sacrifice to maintain that image?" The table had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. "Family comes first," Elena said. "Always. Everything else is secondary." Gerald's eyes flicked to Ryan. "Interesting. Because 6 months ago, you were telling the board that Vaughn Industries was your top priority, that nothing would distract you from the company's success. Now suddenly you have a husband and stepchild. Quite the distraction. My personal life doesn't interfere with my professional responsibilities." "Doesn't it?" "Because from where I'm sitting, this very sudden marriage looks like a convenient solution to a very specific problem. Your grandfather's will required marriage, and here you are, married, with remarkable timing." Ryan's jaw clenched. He saw where this was going. Elena's voice was ice. "Are you implying something, Uncle? I'm simply observing that your marriage seems strategic, which would be fine, admirable even, except that strategies built on deception tend to collapse. And when they do, they take everything down with them." Gerald stood, placing his napkin on the table. "Excuse me, I've lost my appetite." He walked away, leaving a wake of uncomfortable silence. Margaret Hastings spoke first. "Well, that was awkward." Elena's face was composed, but Ryan could feel her shaking. Under the table, he found her hand and squeezed. She squeezed back hard enough to hurt. "If you'll excuse us," Elena said gracefully, "it's been a long day." They left the dining room together, maintaining perfect composure until they reached their suite. The moment the door closed, Elena's control shattered. "He knows," she said, pacing. He doesn't have proof, but he knows. That whole performance was bait, trying to get one of us to slip. We didn't slip. Not tonight. But he's watching Ryan, looking for any crack, any inconsistency, and eventually he'll find one. People like Gerald always do. Then we don't give him one. You don't understand. This isn't just about being careful at dinner parties. This is my entire life under a microscope. Every decision I make, every interaction we have, it all gets analyzed and weaponized. She stopped pacing, her eyes fierce. I'm dragging you into something toxic and dangerous, and I'm not sure how to protect you from it. I knew what I was signing up for. Did you? Because I'm not sure I did. Elena's voice cracked. I thought I could compartmentalize this, keep it clean and professional, but it's not clean. It's messy and complicated, and I can't keep pretending that it doesn't matter. What doesn't matter? She looked at him, and Ryan saw something raw in her expression. You, Emma, this strange little family we're playing at. It matters, and it shouldn't, and I don't know what to do with that. Ryan crossed the room slowly. Elena, don't. Please don't be kind right now. I can't handle it. But he reached out anyway, pulling her into an embrace. She resisted for half a second, then collapsed against him, her face pressed into his shoulder. He felt her breathing hard, fighting tears. I'm supposed to be stronger than this, she whispered. You are strong. That's not the problem. Then what is? You're human. You're allowed to feel things, to be scared. I can't afford to be scared. Too late. You already are. He pulled back just enough to see her face. And that's okay. We'll figure it out. How? How do we figure out something that was never supposed to be real? Ryan didn't have an answer, so instead he did something stupid and reckless and inevitable. He kissed her. It wasn't like their awkward city hall kiss. This was real, desperate and messy, and absolutely nothing like the performance they'd been giving the world. Elena made a small sound of surprise, then kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Elena looked stunned. That was a mistake, Ryan finished. Probably. Definitely. But she didn't let go of his shirt. We should establish boundaries, keep this professional. Absolutely. She kissed him again. This time when they separated, Ryan was the one who stepped back. Emma's in the next room, and we're both exhausted and emotional. We need to think clearly. Elena nodded, looking dazed. Right, clear thinking, professional boundaries. Tomorrow we can talk about what this means. It doesn't mean anything, Elena said quickly. We're just stressed. Gerald got in our heads. It was a momentary lapse in judgment. Sure, I'm serious, Ryan. This can't happen again. I agree. Good. Great. They stood there staring at each other, neither moving. Finally, Elena cleared her throat. I should check on Emma. I'll do it. You should get some rest. Right, rest. Good idea. Ryan escaped to Emma's room, where his daughter was sprawled across the bed, fast asleep with her spy notebook clutched to her chest. He adjusted her blanket, pressed a kiss to her forehead, and tried to get his racing heart under control. He'd just kissed Elena Vaughn, his fake wife, his employer, technically, the woman whose money had saved his life and whose reputation he was supposed to be protecting, and he wanted to do it again. Ryan sat in the chair by Emma's bed, watching her sleep, and tried to figure out when exactly everything had gotten so completely out of control. But he already knew. It had been out of control from the moment he'd said yes, from the moment he'd seen Elena watch Emma on that playground swing and understood that beneath all her armor was someone just as desperate and lonely as he was. The contract said 1 year, 11 months left. How the hell was he supposed to survive 11 months of pretending when even pretending was becoming impossible? His phone buzzed. A text from Elena. I'm sorry. That was inappropriate. It won't happen again. Ryan stared at the message, then typed back, nothing to apologize for. We're both under a lot of pressure. Let's forget it happened. Her response came immediately. Agreed. See you in the morning. Ryan set down his phone and tried to convince himself that forgetting was possible, that he could go back to seeing Elena as just his contractual partner, that the feeling of her lips against his wasn't already burned into his memory. But lies had never been his strong suit, and this was the biggest lie of all, pretending that kiss didn't change everything. Morning came with the kind of awkwardness Ryan had been dreading. Elena was already dressed when he emerged from Emma's room, her hair pulled back severely, her expression carefully neutral as she poured coffee in the suite's kitchenette. "Morning," she said without looking at him. "Morning. Emma still asleep?" "Out cold. The spy games wore her out." Elena nodded, focusing intently on adding cream to her coffee like it required her full concentration. The silence stretched between them, thick and uncomfortable. "Elena, we should talk about the golf thing," she interrupted. "You don't have to actually play. Just ride along in the cart. Network. Gerald will be watching to see if you fit in with the other spouses." "Right." The performance continues. She flinched slightly at his tone. "That's not what I meant." "Isn't it?" Ryan poured his own coffee, needing something to do with his hands. "We're back to the script. Pretending last night didn't happen." "It didn't happen. Not in any way that matters." "You don't believe that." Elena finally looked at him, her eyes guarded. "What do you want me to say, Ryan? That kissing you felt real? That I've been thinking about it all night? That scares me more than anything Gerald could do to us." "Why?" "Because this ends. In 11 months, we sign papers and walk away. Getting attached just makes that harder." She set down her coffee cup with more force than necessary. "I've spent my entire adult life building walls to protect myself. I can't afford to let someone in who's only temporary." "And if I'm not temporary?" The question hung between them, dangerous and impossible. "You have to be," Elena said quietly. "The contract, screw the contract. I'm asking what you want, not what the plan is, not what makes sense. What do you actually want?" Elena opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time since he'd met her, she looked completely lost. "I don't know. I've never let myself want anything that wasn't on the 5-year plan." Before Ryan could respond, Emma's voice called out sleepily from the bedroom. "Daddy? Is it breakfast time?" The moment shattered. Elena straightened, her mask sliding back into place. "I'll shower and change. We're supposed to meet the group at 9. She disappeared into her room, and Ryan went to help Emma get ready. The conversation left unfinished and aching between them. The golf outing was exactly as tedious as Ryan had anticipated. He rode in a cart with Thomas Hastings, who spent the entire morning explaining hedge fund strategies Ryan didn't understand and didn't care about. But he smiled and nodded and asked the occasional question that seemed to please Thomas enough. Elena was 3 carts ahead with Margaret and 2 other board members' wives, her laughter carrying across the green, performing again. Ryan wondered if she was exhausted from it, or if it had become so natural she didn't notice anymore. "You're a lucky man," Thomas observed, watching Elena sink a putt. "Beautiful wife, successful wife. Must be strange, though, being the one who married up." Ryan's jaw tightened. "I don't think of it that way." "No? How do you think of it?" "I think Elena and I found each other when we both needed someone. The rest is just details." Thomas laughed, but it wasn't friendly. "Details. Right. Like her shares in Vaughn Industries. Like the fact that if she'd stayed single another few months, Gerald would have taken control of the company. Lucky timing, wouldn't you say?" "Are you implying something?" "Just making conversation." Thomas lined up his shot. "But between you and me, this whole thing smells off. Gerald's not wrong to be suspicious." "Then he can stay suspicious. Won't change anything." "We'll see." Thomas swung, his ball slicing into the rough. "Damn. Never could get the hang of this game." When they finally returned to the clubhouse for lunch, Ryan found Elena on the terrace, staring out at the mountains. Her shoulders were tight, her posture rigid. "That bad?" he asked quietly, joining her. "Margaret spent the entire round interrogating me about our relationship. When we're planning to have kids, whether you've signed a prenup, if I'm worried about you being after my money." Elena's voice was brittle. She was relentless. "What did you tell her?" "That our family planning is none of her business, and that I trust my husband completely." She glanced at him. "She didn't believe me." "Does it matter what she believes?" "It matters what she reports back to Gerald. Every conversation, every interaction, it's all intelligence gathering." Elena rubbed her temples. "I'm so tired of playing these games." "Then stop." "I can't. If I stop, I lose. That's how this works." Ryan was about to respond when Gerald himself appeared on the terrace, a tumbler of scotch in hand despite it being barely noon. Ryan, Elena, enjoying the retreat? His smile was all teeth. It's lovely, Elena said coolly. Thank you for organizing it. My pleasure. Though I must say I'm surprised to see you here. Usually you skip these events. Too busy with work, you always said. Priorities change. Indeed they do. Gerald sipped his drink, his eyes moving between them. You know, I've been thinking about your father lately, wondering what he'd make of all this. Elena's entire body went still. What's that supposed to mean? Just that he was so careful about protecting the company. Every decision calculated, every risk assessed. He'd probably be fascinated by your current strategy. Gerald's tone was casual, but his words landed like punches. Marrying a stranger to satisfy a contractual obligation. Very pragmatic. Very corporate. My marriage is not a corporate strategy, Elena said, her voice sharp. No? Then what is it? True love? Gerald laughed. Come on, Elena. We both know you don't believe in that fairy tale nonsense. You're your father's daughter. All business, no sentiment, which is why this whole charade is so unconvincing. Ryan stepped forward. You don't know anything about our marriage. Don't I? I know Elena. I watched her grow up. I saw how she ruthlessly eliminated every distraction to focus on the company. No serious relationships, no close friendships, nothing that might compromise her ambition. Gerald looked at Elena. And now suddenly you're playing house with a construction worker and his kid? You'll forgive me for being skeptical. That's enough, Ryan said, his voice low and dangerous. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, you're either a very good actor or a very naive man being used by someone far more calculating than you realize. Gerald finished his scotch. Either way, I almost feel sorry for you. Elena doesn't know how to love people. She only knows how to use them. Elena's face had gone pale, but before she could speak, Ryan grabbed Gerald by the arm. You want to come at me? Fine. I can take it. But you don't talk about her like that. You don't know her. And you do? After what, a few months? Gerald yanked his arm free. You're delusional. Maybe, but at least I see her as a person, not a threat to your power. Ryan stepped closer. You're scared of her. That's what this is really about. You know she's better than you, smarter than you, and it kills you that your brother chose her to carry on his legacy instead of you. Gerald's face flushed with anger. You have no idea what you're talking about. I think I do. I think you've spent years waiting for her to fail, so you can swoop in and claim what you think you deserve. But she's not failing, so now you're trying to manufacture a scandal to force her out. Ryan's voice was steady, certain. It's not going to work. Because unlike you, Elena actually cares about the company. Not as a trophy, but as something worth protecting, and I'm going to help her do exactly that. For a long moment, Gerald just stared at him. Then he smiled coldly. We'll see. The board meeting is in 3 days. I've already secured enough votes to call for a leadership review. Your little performance here won't change that. He walked away, leaving Ryan and Elena alone on the terrace. Elena was trembling. You shouldn't have done that. He had it coming. You just made this worse. He'll dig deeper now, look harder for proof. Let him look. We haven't done anything wrong. Haven't we? Elena's eyes were bright with unshed tears. We're lying to everyone. We got married for strategic reasons, and now we're pretending it's something else. Gerald's right. This is a charade. Is that what you think? That everything between us is fake? I don't know what I think anymore. Elena's voice cracked. 3 weeks ago, I knew exactly who I was and what I wanted. Now I'm confused and scared, and I can't tell where the performance ends and reality begins. Ryan reached for her, but she stepped back. Don't, please. I need to think clearly, and I can't do that when you're touching me. Elena, I'm going back to the room. Tell Emma I'll see her at dinner. She left before he could stop her, and Ryan stood alone on the terrace, wondering how everything had gotten so twisted so fast. He found Emma in the kids' program room, covered in paint and grinning. Daddy, look! I made a picture of our family. She held up a chaotic masterpiece. 3 stick figures holding hands in front of a building. One tall with dark hair, one medium with blonde hair, one small with yellow pigtails. That's beautiful, Bug. That's you. That's Elena. That's me. We're happy. Emma pointed proudly. The teacher said families come in all shapes. Ours is a triangle. Ryan's chest tightened. Yeah, we are. Is Elena sad? She looked sad at breakfast. Kids saw everything. She's just stressed about work. You should make her laugh. When I'm sad, you make jokes and I feel better. It's a little more complicated than that. Why? Jokes work on everyone. Emma started cleaning up her art supplies. You just gotta find the right one. If only it were that simple. That evening, Elena didn't come to dinner. Marcy delivered a message that she wasn't feeling well and had ordered room service. Emma accepted this without question, but Ryan saw through it immediately. Elena was hiding, from him, from Gerald, from the mess they'd created. After putting Emma to bed, Ryan stood outside Elena's closed door for a full minute before knocking. I'm fine, came her muffled voice. Just need some rest. Can I come in, please? A long pause, then. It's unlocked. She was sitting on the bed, still dressed, her laptop open but clearly not working. She looked exhausted. I'm sorry, Ryan said. For earlier, I shouldn't have confronted Gerald like that. You were defending me. Most people don't bother. Most people are idiots. He sat in the chair across from her. What he said about you, about not knowing how to love people, he's wrong. Is he? I fired Maria Chen without a second thought. I built my entire life around professional achievement instead of personal relationships. I married you for shares in a company. Elena's laugh was hollow. Maybe Gerald knows me better than I know myself. You think a woman who can't love would have spent an hour reading bedtime stories to my daughter? Would have held my hand when I was scared about losing her? Would have looked at me the way you did last night when we... Ryan stopped. You're not heartless, Elena. You're just scared. Of what? Of wanting something you might not get to keep. Elena stared at him, her defenses visibly crumbling. When I was 8, after my mother died, I asked my father if he'd ever get married again. He said no, because loving someone meant giving them the power to destroy you. When they left or died, they took part of you with them. Better to stay self-sufficient, he said. That way you're never vulnerable. That's a lonely way to live. It's a safe way to live. My father understood that. He protected himself. And it killed him anyway, Ryan said gently, working himself to death because he wouldn't let anyone share the burden. Is that really the life you want? It's the life I know. It doesn't have to be. Elena closed her laptop, set it aside. What are we doing, Ryan? Really? Because this started as a transaction and now it's something else and I don't know the rules anymore. Maybe there aren't rules. Maybe we just figure it out as we go. That's terrifying. Yeah, it really is. He moved to sit beside her on the bed. But here's what I know. Emma adores you. Not fake you, not performing you. The real you who can't do voices but reads bedtime stories anyway. Who eats pizza at inappropriate hours. Who looks at my daughter like she's something precious. She is precious. So are you. Elena's breath caught. Ryan, I'm not asking you to have all the answers right now. I'm just asking you to stop pretending you don't feel anything. Because I see you, Elena, the real you. And she's worth so much more than what your father or Gerald or anyone else thinks. What if I disappoint you? What if I'm not capable of being what you need? What if you are? Ryan took her hand. What if we stop being so scared of the worst-case scenario and just see what happens? The contract says, I don't care what the contract says. You should. We both should. In 11 months, a lot can happen in 11 months. He squeezed her hand. We can figure out the rest later. Right now, can we just be honest? No performance, no strategy, just us. Elena looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. I don't know how to do this. How to let someone in. Then let me help. We'll learn together. You make it sound easy. It's not, but I think it's worth it. She leaned her head against his shoulder, and he felt the tension drain from her body. They sat like that for a long time, not speaking, just existing together in the quiet. Finally, Elena said, Emma made a painting today of our family. I saw. A triangle. She really sees us that way, as a unit. Elena's voice was small. What happens when this ends and we break her heart? We don't let it end that way. We make sure Emma's protected no matter what. How? I don't know yet. But we'll figure it out. Ryan pressed a kiss to the top of her head. Together. Elena tilted her face up, and he saw something vulnerable and hopeful in her expression. Will you stay? Tonight? I'm not asking for anything. I just don't want to be alone. Of course. They lay down on top of the covers, fully clothed, and Ryan pulled her close. She fit against him perfectly, her head on his chest, her breathing gradually evening out. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For seeing me. The real me. Even when I'm trying to hide. Always. She fell asleep like that, and Ryan stayed awake for a long time, watching her peaceful face and trying to figure out how he'd gone from desperate and drowning to holding the most complicated woman he'd ever met in his arms. The board meeting was scheduled for Tuesday morning at Vaughn Industries headquarters. Elena had been preparing obsessively since they returned from the retreat, rehearsing her presentation, anticipating Gerald's attacks, building her defense strategy. Ryan had never seen her like this, sharp and focused, but with an edge of panic underneath. She barely slept, barely ate, just worked and worried and prepared for a battle she wasn't sure she could win. You need to rest, Ryan told her Monday night, finding her at the dining table surrounded by financial reports at 2 a.m. I need to be ready. Gerald's going to tear apart every decision I've made in the last year. If I show any weakness, you're not weak. Stop thinking like you have to prove that. That's all I've ever had to do. Prove I'm strong enough, smart enough, worthy enough. She rubbed her eyes. The board already doubts me because I'm young and a woman. This marriage gave Gerald the perfect ammunition to claim I'm reckless and impulsive. Then show them you're not. Show them the Elena I see, brilliant and strategic and completely in control. What if that's not enough? It will be. But Ryan wasn't sure he believed it. And from the look in Elena's eyes, neither was she. The morning of the meeting, Elena dressed in armor. A sharp black suit, her hair severe, her makeup perfect. She looked untouchable, unreachable. Nothing like the woman who'd fallen asleep in his arms 3 nights ago. How do I look? She asked. Terrifying. Good. She checked her reflection one more time. That's the point. Elena, knock them dead. She gave him a tight smile. I intend to. Ryan spent the day distracted at work, checking his phone compulsively, even though he knew Elena wouldn't text during the meeting. Bill noticed him zoning out during a safety briefing and pulled him aside. You okay, Carter? You've been off all day. Sorry, personal stuff. I'll focus. This about your wife, the fancy one? Ryan blinked. How do you... Saw the wedding announcement in the business section. Vaughn Industries heiress. That's a hell of a catch. Bill's expression was unreadable. Or a hell of a complication. Both, probably. Just make sure you keep your head on straight. Construction sites aren't safe when you're distracted. But Bill's tone wasn't unkind. Whatever you're dealing with, handle it, then come back ready to work. Yes, sir. Ryan's phone finally buzzed at 4 p.m. A text from Elena. It's over. I'm still standing, barely. He called immediately. She answered on the first ring. What happened? Gerald presented his case, claimed I'd demonstrated poor judgment, acted impulsively, prioritized personal matters over company interests. He had testimonies from 3 board members questioning my leadership. Elena's voice was tight, but I had the numbers. Revenue's up 20% since I took over. We've expanded into 3 new markets. Customer satisfaction is at an all-time high. I laid it all out, every metric, every success, made it impossible for them to claim incompetence. And the board voted, 8-4 in my favor. I keep my position. Gerald's challenge failed. Ryan exhaled in relief. That's incredible. It's temporary. He'll try again. But for now, I'm safe. She paused. Ryan, there's something else. The board made a recommendation. They want me to demonstrate long-term stability, which means they want to see our marriage succeed, publicly, consistently. What does that mean? It means more public appearances, more scrutiny, more pressure to prove this is real. Her voice dropped. Are you sure you want to keep doing this? Because it's only going to get harder. Ryan thought about Emma's painting, about Elena reading bedtime stories, about the way she'd looked at him on the retreat terrace, vulnerable and scared and real. I'm sure, he said. We're in this together. Remember? Together, she echoed softly. I'll be home in an hour. Can you make sure Emma's ready for dinner? I want to celebrate with both of you. Of course. And Ryan, thank you for believing I could do this. Always. When Elena came home, she looked exhausted but relieved. Emma ambushed her at the door with a hug, and Elena laughed, really laughed, scooping her up. We're getting pizza, Emma announced. The good kind with the crispy crust. Sounds perfect. They ate on the living room floor, Emma between them, telling elaborate stories about her day while tomato sauce accumulated on her face. Elena listened with complete attention, asking questions, making Emma feel heard. After Emma was in bed, Ryan found Elena on the balcony, staring out at the city lights. You won, he said, joining her. I survived. There's a difference. She leaned against the railing. Gerald's not going to stop. He'll keep pushing, keep looking for ways to undermine me. This is just the beginning. Then we'll keep fighting, every round, every challenge. Elena turned to face him. Why are you so willing to do this? You could walk away, take the money I've already paid you, keep custody of Emma, start over without all this drama. Is that what you want? No, but I'm trying to understand why you're staying. Ryan stepped closer. At first, I stayed for Emma, for the security you offered. But now, he reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. Now I'm staying because when I imagine my life without you in it, it feels wrong, incomplete. Ryan, I know the contract says this ends. I know we agreed it was temporary. But somewhere between the playground and the retreat and you falling asleep on my chest, I stopped being able to imagine the ending. I stopped wanting to. Elena's eyes were bright. This is dangerous. We're not supposed to. I don't care what we're supposed to do. I care what we want to do. He cupped her face gently. Tell me I'm alone in this. Tell me you don't feel it too, and I'll back off. We'll go back to the arrangement, keep it professional. But if there's even a chance you feel what I'm feeling, she kissed him, cutting off his words. This kiss was different from the retreat. Not desperate or confused, but sure, certain. When she pulled back, her expression was open in a way he'd never seen. I'm terrified, she admitted, but I feel it too. I have for weeks. Maybe from the beginning, I don't know. All I know is that you and Emma have become the most important parts of my day, and that scares me more than any board meeting ever could. Why? Because I don't know how to do this. How to be someone's partner, someone's... She stopped. Someone's what? Someone's real wife. Not contractually, not strategically. Actually real. Ryan's heart hammered. Is that what you want? For this to be real? I think it already is. We just kept pretending it wasn't. Elena's smile was tremulous. So, what do we do now? We stop pretending. We tear up the contract. We build something that's ours on our terms. The board can think whatever they want. Let them see a real marriage. Let them see us actually choosing each other. Ryan pulled her close. We've been performing for everyone else. What if we just perform for ourselves? See what that looks like. Elena wrapped her arms around him, holding tight. What about when things get hard? When the newness wears off and we're just two broken people trying to figure it out? Then we'll still be together. That's the point. He kissed her forehead. I'm not asking for perfect, Elena. I'm just asking for real. She looked up at him, and he saw the decision forming in her eyes, the choice to trust, to risk, to let someone in despite every instinct telling her to protect herself. Okay, she whispered. Let's try real. This time when they kissed, it felt like a beginning instead of a mistake, like something they were building instead of something they were hiding from. And when they finally pulled apart, both smiling, Ryan felt something settle in his chest, a rightness he hadn't felt in years. They had no idea if this would work, no guarantee it wouldn't end in disaster. But for the first time since signing that contract, they weren't pretending anymore. They were just two people, scared and hopeful and falling into something neither of them had planned for. And that felt like enough. For 3 weeks, they existed in a strange kind of peace. Ryan went to work each morning, Elena managed the company with renewed confidence, and Emma flourished in their makeshift family. They stopped sleeping in separate rooms without ever discussing it. Elena just started appearing in Ryan's doorway at night, asking if she could stay, and he always said yes. It felt real, dangerously, completely real. But peace never lasted long in Elena's world. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday morning when Ryan's phone rang at 6 a.m. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Mr. Carter? This is Diana Morales from the Department of Family Services." Ryan's blood went cold. "What's this about?" "We've received a complaint regarding your daughter Emma's living situation. I'll need to schedule a home visit to assess the environment and ensure her well-being." "A complaint? From who?" "I'm not at liberty to say, but the concerns raised were serious enough to warrant investigation." "Are you available Thursday afternoon?" Ryan's mind raced. "Yes, whatever you need. 2 o'clock. I'll need to speak with both you and your wife, as well as observe Emma in the home." Miss Morales paused. "Mr. Carter, I want to be clear. This is standard procedure, but I'd advise you to take this seriously. Depending on what I find, it could impact your custody arrangement." She hung up and Ryan sat frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear. "What's wrong?" Elena emerged from the bathroom, hair wet from the shower. She took one look at his face and crossed the room quickly. "Ryan, what happened?" He told her. With every word, Elena's expression hardened. "Someone reported you to family services," she said flatly. "Someone who wants to undermine your custody." "Jenna wouldn't—" "Not Jenna. Gerald." Elena started pacing, her strategic mind already working. "He's attacking from a different angle. Can't prove our marriage is fake, so now he's going after Emma. Make you look unstable, unfit, force you to choose between your daughter and this arrangement." "That's insane. I've done everything right. Emma's thriving here." "I know that. You know that. But a skilled investigator can twist anything. The sudden change in housing, the rapid marriage to someone you barely knew, the lifestyle adjustment." Elena stopped pacing. "He's painting you as reckless. And if family services agrees, if they recommend modifying the custody agreement, I lose Emma." Ryan felt sick. "This is my fault. I should never have agreed to this. I put her at risk for money." "Stop. You agreed to this to save her. There's a difference." Elena knelt in front of him, gripping his hands. "We're going to fix this. Thursday, we show them exactly what they need to see. A stable, loving home with 2 parents who are completely devoted to Emma's welfare." "We're not her parents. Not really. I'm her father, and you're—" He stopped, unsure how to finish. "I'm what?" Elena's voice was quiet. "I don't know. We never defined that part." Elena stood, wrapping her arms around herself. "Emma calls me by my first name. At school events, other parents ask if I'm the nanny. At the pediatrician last week, the nurse assumed I was just a family friend." She looked at Ryan. "I never thought about what role I actually play in her life. I've just been here." "You're more than just here. Emma loves you. But am I her stepmother, her father's girlfriend, some temporary figure who'll disappear when the contract ends?" Elena's composure cracked. "What do I tell the social worker when she asks about my relationship to Emma? Because I don't have an answer." "You're her family," Ryan said firmly. "That's the answer." "Is it?" "Because family doesn't usually have an expiration date built into the paperwork." The truth of that hung between them. They'd agreed to make this real, but they hadn't actually dealt with what real meant. The commitments, the permanence, the 1,000 small decisions that came with building an actual life together. "We need to tell Emma," Elena said finally, "before the social worker comes. She needs to know what's happening." "She's 6. How do we explain this without scaring her?" "Honestly, kids can handle honesty better than adults think." Elena's expression softened. "Trust me on this. My mother was sick for 2 years before she died. The worst part wasn't the cancer, it was the adults lying about it, pretending everything was fine when I could see it wasn't. Emma's smart. She'll know if we're hiding something." So that evening, after dinner, they sat Emma down in the living room. "Bug, we need to talk to you about something," Ryan started. Emma's face grew serious instantly. "Am I in trouble?" "No, sweetheart, nothing like that." Elena sat beside her on the couch. "But someone is coming to visit on Thursday. A woman named Ms. Morales. She works for a group that makes sure kids are safe and happy in their homes." "Like an inspector?" Emma asked. Sort of. She's going to ask you some questions about living here with me and Elena, about how you feel, what you do every day, things like that. Emma frowned. Why? I'm happy. You guys know that. We do, but sometimes grown-ups have to check these things officially, to make sure. Ryan chose his words carefully. When we moved here, when Elena and I got married, it all happened pretty fast. Some people think that's confusing for kids. So Ms. Morales just wants to make sure you're okay with everything. I'm super okay with everything, Emma said firmly. I love it here. My room is amazing and Elena helps with my homework, and we have pizza night every Friday. She looked between them. Did someone say I'm not happy? Elena and Ryan exchanged glances. Someone raised concerns, Elena said gently. But they don't know you like we do. They don't see how well you're doing. Then I'll tell Miss Morales. I'll tell her this is the best home ever. Emma's little face was fierce. Nobody's going to take me away from you guys. I won't let them. Ryan pulled her into a hug, his throat tight. We won't let that happen either. We're going to make sure you stay right here with us. Promise? Promise, Ryan said, even though he couldn't guarantee it. Even though everything felt precarious and breakable. That night, after Emma was asleep, Elena sat at the dining table with her laptop making lists. What are you doing? Ryan asked. Building our case. I'm documenting everything. Emma's school records showing improved grades and attendance. Her pediatrician's notes about her health. Photos of her room, her activities, everything that shows stability. Elena typed rapidly. If Gerald thinks he can use bureaucracy against us, he's forgotten who he's dealing with. This isn't a business negotiation, Elena. Everything's a negotiation. You just have to know what leverage you have. She pulled up another document. I'm also drafting a letter to Family Services from Emma's teacher, her school counselor, and your former neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez. Character references. Evidence that you're an excellent father who's provided Emma with an upgraded living situation. You think that'll be enough? It has to be. Because the alternative is… Elena stopped, her fingers frozen above the keyboard. Is what? Losing. And I don't lose. But her voice wavered. Especially not when it's Emma. Ryan moved behind her chair, resting his hands on her shoulders. We're going to get through this. You keep saying that. But what if we don't? What if they decide this arrangement is unstable? What if they recommend Emma go back to Jenna full time? Then we fight harder. We appeal. We do whatever it takes. Elena turned to look up at him. And if fighting means exposing the truth about our marriage? If they investigate deep enough to find the contract, the payments, the whole arrangement, what then? Ryan hadn't thought about that. The contract was damning evidence, proof that their marriage had been transactional, strategic, exactly what Gerald claimed. If Family Services discovered it, we destroy it, he said suddenly. What? The contract. We burn it, erase every digital copy, make it disappear like it never existed. That doesn't change the fact that it happened, that money changed hands, that we signed legal documents. So we reframe it. I was in debt, you helped me out. Lots of couples handle finances that way. The marriage certificate is real. Our life together is real. Everything else is just details we don't owe anyone an explanation for. Elena stared at him. You're suggesting we commit fraud. I'm suggesting we protect our family. There's a difference. Is there? But Elena was already pulling up files, her fingers flying. The original contract is in my personal safe. Marcy has a copy in her office files. There's a digital backup on my encrypted server. She looked at Ryan. If we do this, we do it completely. No evidence left anywhere. Then that's what we do. They spent the next hour methodically erasing every trace of their original arrangement. Elena deleted files, Ryan shredded physical papers, and together they watched 5 months of carefully constructed legal protection disappear into nothing. When it was done, Elena sat back, looking shaken. We just destroyed our insurance policy. If this goes wrong, if we break up or something happens, neither of us has any legal protection. I know. You're not worried, terrified. But this stopped being about contracts the moment we decided to make it real. Ryan pulled her close. We're in this together now. Actually together. No safety net. Elena buried her face in his chest. This is the stupidest thing I've ever done. Probably. If my board found out I just destroyed legally binding documents to cover up, they won't, because we're the only ones who know. She pulled back to look at him, Promise me something. If this all falls apart, if we can't make it work, you'll tell me before you run. No disappearing, no silent exit, just honesty. I promise. Same goes for you. Deal. They shook on it solemnly, like children making a pact. Then Elena laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. We're insane, you know that, right? We just committed fraud to protect a fake marriage that became real but started as a business transaction. This is insane. Completely, Ryan agreed. But it's our insane, and I wouldn't change it. Elena kissed him, soft and desperate. I'm falling in love with you. I think I have been for weeks, and that terrifies me more than any board meeting or social worker ever could. Ryan's heart stopped. Started again, harder. Say that again. I'm falling in love with you. Elena's eyes were bright with tears. And I have no idea what to do with that. You could try falling and see what happens. What if I crash? Then I'll catch you. That's how this works. Ryan wiped away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. I'm falling too, by the way. Pretty sure I started the day Emma made you push her on the swings. That was 5 weeks ago. I know, I'm slow. Elena laughed through her tears. You're impossible. You love me anyway. I really do. She said it like a revelation, like something she'd been fighting and finally surrendered to. I really, really do. They held each other in the quiet apartment, the city lights glowing through the windows, and for a moment everything else faded. The social worker, Gerald's schemes, the constant performance, none of it mattered. Just this, just them. But Thursday came anyway, relentless and terrifying. Miss Morales arrived exactly at 2 p.m., a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a clipboard that somehow made everything feel official and threatening. She introduced herself, accepted Elena's offer of coffee, and settled into the living room with a demeanor that was both friendly and professionally detached. Thank you both for meeting with me, she said. I know this can feel intrusive, but I want to assure you, my only goal is Emma's well-being. If everything is as it should be, you have nothing to worry about. We understand, Elena said smoothly. We want Emma to be safe and happy. Whatever you need from us, we're happy to provide. Miss Morales smiled. Let's start with some basic questions. Mr. Carter, can you walk me through a typical day with Emma, from waking up to bedtime? Ryan did, explaining the morning routine, school drop-offs, afternoon activities, dinner, homework, bedtime. Simple, normal, exactly what any parent would describe. And Mrs. Carter, what's your role in this routine? Elena hesitated for just a fraction of a second. I handle breakfast most mornings since Ryan leaves early for work. I help Emma with her reading homework. She's working on chapter books now. And I usually do bedtime on weeknights when Ryan's schedule runs late. So you're very involved in her day-to-day care. Yes, Emma is... Elena paused, choosing words carefully. She's become incredibly important to me. I never expected to feel this way, to be honest. I didn't grow up wanting to be a mother, but Emma has this way of just fitting into your life, making you want to be better. Miss Morales scribbled notes. How long did you two date before getting married? 6 months, Ryan said, sticking to their story. That's relatively quick, especially with a child involved. It was quick, Ryan admitted, but when you know, you know. And I needed Emma to be part of that decision. She met Elena early on. If Emma hadn't approved, it wouldn't have happened. How did Emma react to the marriage, to moving here? She was excited, Elena said. Maybe too excited. She told everyone at school she was getting a castle. A small smile. This apartment isn't quite a castle, but Emma's imagination is generous. Could I see Emma's room? They showed Miss Morales the bedroom Elena had set up, bright and cheerful with bookshelves full of age-appropriate books, a desk for homework, toys organized neatly but not obsessively. The social worker took photos, made notes, asked questions about sleep schedules and discipline methods. And where does Emma go when she's upset or scared? Ms. Morales asked. Ryan and Elena looked at each other. Usually to me, Ryan said. I'm dad. That's my job. But lately, Elena added quietly, she's been coming to both of us. If I'm closer, she'll find me first. If Ryan's around, she'll want him. It's becoming less about me being the only option and more about us both being safe people for her. Miss Morales nodded, writing more. That's actually a very healthy sign. Shows she's bonding with you, forming secure attachments. They returned to the living room, and Ms. Morales asked Emma to join them. Emma came in wearing her favorite dress, her hair in careful braids Elena had done that morning. "Hi, Emma," Ms. Morales said warmly. "I'm Diana. I work with kids to make sure they're happy in their homes. Can I ask you some questions?" "Okay." Emma sat between Ryan and Elena on the couch, looking small but brave. "Do you like living here?" "I love it here. My room is so big and I can see the park from my window. What do you do after school?" "Sometimes Daddy picks me up and we go to the library. Sometimes Marcy picks me up and we listen to Taylor Swift. Then I do homework and have snack and play." "Who helps with homework?" "Daddy helps with math because he's good at numbers. Elena helps with reading because she knows all the words, even the hard ones." Miss Morales smiled. "What do you call Elena? Stepmom? Elena?" Emma thought about this seriously. "Just Elena, but sometimes I think about calling her Mom. Is that weird?" Ryan felt Elena stiffen beside him. "Not weird at all," Ms. Morales said gently. "What makes you think about that?" "Because she does Mom stuff. She braids my hair and packs my lunch with notes inside. She came to my school play and sat in the front row. She reads to me every night, even when she's tired." Emma looked up at Elena. "That's Mom stuff, right?" Elena's voice was thick. "Yeah, sweetie, that's Mom stuff. But I already have a mom, with Patrick in the suburbs, so I don't know if I can have two." "You can have as many people who love you as you want," Ms. Morales said. "There's no limit on family. What matters is that people take care of you and make you feel safe. Do you feel safe here?" "Super safe. Daddy would never let anything bad happen to me. And Elena is like—" Emma struggled for words. "She's like a superhero, but for real life. She makes problems go away." "What kind of problems?" "Like when I was worried about mean kids at school, Elena taught me what to say. And when Daddy was sad about money, Elena helped fix it. She fixes things. That's what she does." Ms. Morales took more notes. "Emma, I have to ask you something important. Has anyone ever hurt you here? Made you feel scared or uncomfortable?" "No," Emma said firmly. "Never. Daddy and Elena are the safest people I know. Even when they're upset or angry, they don't really get angry. Not at me. Sometimes they disagree about boring stuff like work or schedules, but they're not mean about it. They just talk until they figure it out." Emma swung her legs. "Are we done? Because I have a play date at 4. Miss Morales laughed. "Almost done. Just one more question. If you could change anything about living here, what would it be?" Emma considered this seriously. "I wish Elena didn't have to work so much, and I wish Daddy didn't worry so much about stuff. But mostly it's perfect the way it is." "Thank you, Emma. You can go get ready for your play date." Emma hopped off the couch, then surprised everyone by hugging Elena tightly. "I love you," she whispered, "even if I don't call you Mom yet." Elena's arms came around her, holding tight. "I love you too, Bug." Emma skipped off to her room, leaving the three adults in heavy silence. Miss Morales reviewed her notes for a long moment. Finally, she looked up. "I'm going to be honest with you both. When I received this complaint, I was prepared to find evidence of an unstable environment. The circumstances were certainly unusual: rapid marriage, significant lifestyle change, blended family dynamics. But what I've observed today is a child who is thriving. Emma is well-adjusted, articulate, clearly loved and cared for by both of you." Ryan felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. "However," Miss Morales continued, "there are still some concerns. The complaint alleged that this marriage was entered into for financial reasons rather than genuine relationship, and that Emma was being used as a pawn in some kind of business arrangement." Elena's expression hardened. "That's absurd, is it?" Because the person who filed this complaint provided some interesting details. They knew about Mr. Carter's medical debt, the timing of the marriage in relation to custody proceedings, even the fact that you two got married at City Hall with no family present. Miss Morales looked between them. "That's not public information. Someone close to this situation wants me to believe your marriage is fraudulent. Someone with an agenda," Elena said coldly. "My Uncle Gerald has been trying to undermine my position at my company for years. This is just his latest tactic. If he can make Ryan look unstable, it reflects poorly on my judgment, gives the board ammunition to question my leadership." "So you're saying this is corporate sabotage?" "I'm saying it's a vindictive man using a little girl as collateral damage in a power play." Elena leaned forward. "Miss Morales, I understand why you have to investigate. But Emma is not a pawn. She's a child who lost stability when her parents divorced, who went through trauma with her medical emergency, who needed safety and love. That's what we've given her. Whether our marriage started conventionally or not is irrelevant. What matters is that we're committed to each other and to her. Miss Morales studied Elena for a long moment. You really care about her. I can see that. I would do anything to protect her. Anything. Even marry someone you barely knew? The question hung in the air, dangerous and direct. Ryan spoke up. We married quickly, yes. But we've built something real. We're not perfect. We argue about stupid stuff. We're still figuring out how to be a family. But we show up for each other. And most importantly, we show up for Emma. Every single day. Miss Morales closed her notebook. I'm going to recommend that custody remain as currently arranged. Emma is clearly in a loving, stable home. However, I will be conducting a follow-up visit in 3 months to ensure this stability continues. That's fair, Ryan said. And Mr. Carter, Mrs. Carter, whoever filed this complaint isn't going to stop. If this really is part of a larger campaign against you, they'll find other ways to attack. You need to be prepared for that. We will be, Elena said. After Miss Morales left, Ryan and Elena sat in stunned silence. We passed, Ryan said finally. Barely. And she's right. Gerald won't stop. He'll keep pushing, keep looking for weaknesses. Let him. We don't have anything to hide anymore. Elena laughed shakily. Except the fact that we destroyed all evidence of our contractual marriage 2 days ago. That's definitely something to hide. Right, there's that. Emma emerged from her room, dressed for her playdate. Did I do good? Miss Morales seemed nice. You were perfect, Ryan said, pulling her in for a hug. I told the truth. That's what you said to do. And you were exactly right. Elena knelt down to Emma's level. Hey, Bug. You said something earlier about maybe wanting to call me Mom someday. Emma nodded. You don't have to. But if you want to, if it feels right to you, then it's okay with me. More than okay. Really? Really? You already have a mom who loves you. But there's room for more love, as much as you want to give. Emma thought about this. Can I try it out? Like, use it sometimes and see if it feels weird? However you want to do it is fine. Okay, thanks, Mom. Emma tested the word, then grinned. It's not weird. It's good. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Yeah, it's really good. Emma hugged her, then skipped off to meet Marcy for her playdate, leaving Ryan and Elena alone again. You okay? Ryan asked. She called me Mom. I heard. I never thought I'd have this. I spent so long convinced I wasn't built for it, that I'd be terrible at being someone's parent. Elena wiped her eyes. And now I have a 6-year-old calling me Mom, and it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Ryan pulled her close. You're a natural. Emma knew it before you did. I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to be too strict or not strict enough or miss important signs, or you're going to be exactly what Emma needs, just like you are right now. They held each other, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, and Ryan felt something click into place. This was his family. Messy and complicated and born from desperation, but real. Actually genuinely real. We should celebrate, Elena said. We survived the social worker. That deserves pizza. It's Thursday. Pizza night is Friday. Then we're rebels who have pizza 2 nights in a row. Emma will think we've lost our minds. She'll love it. And she did. They ate pizza on the floor again, Emma delighted by the rule-breaking, telling them elaborate stories about her playdate. Later, after Emma was asleep, Ryan and Elena sat on the balcony, Elena's head on his shoulder, watching the city lights. Gerald's going to keep coming, Elena said quietly. I know. We need to be ready for whatever he throws at us next. We will be. Together. Elena laced her fingers through his. I'm scared. Of losing this. Of something happening that pulls us apart. Then we hold on tighter. We don't let anything break us. Promise? Promise. But even as he said it, Ryan felt the weight of that promise. Because Gerald Vaughn was relentless and powerful, and people like him didn't lose gracefully. They fought dirty, aimed for weak spots, destroyed whatever stood in their way. And Ryan's weak spot was sleeping peacefully down the hall, clutching her stuffed rabbit, trusting that the adults in her life would keep her safe. Whatever was coming, they'd have to be ready. Because this wasn't just about Elena's company anymore, or Ryan's custody, or even their marriage. This was about protecting the family they'd built from the ashes of desperation, and Ryan would burn the whole world down before he let anyone take that away. Gerald's next move came 3 weeks later, and it was worse than anything Ryan had imagined. Elena's phone rang during dinner, a Friday night, pizza night, Emma's favorite. She glanced at the screen, and her face went pale. "I need to take this," she said, already standing. "It's the board chair." She disappeared into her office, and Ryan tried to keep Emma distracted with a story about his day at work. But his attention was on the closed door, the muffled sound of Elena's voice rising in pitch. When she emerged 20 minutes later, her composure was shattered. "What happened?" Ryan asked. Elena's eyes were red. "Not now, after Emma's asleep." The rest of dinner was tense. Elena picking at her food, Ryan watching her with growing dread. Emma sensed something wrong and grew quiet, eating slowly, watching them both with worried eyes. "Is everything okay?" Emma asked finally. "Everything's fine, Bug," Ryan said, forcing a smile. "Elena just has work stress. You know how that goes." "She looks really sad." "I'm okay, sweetheart," Elena managed. "Just a long day." But Emma wasn't convinced. After her bath, she asked Elena to read stories, and Elena sat on the edge of the bed going through the motions, her voice flat, her mind clearly elsewhere. When Emma finally fell asleep, Elena stayed there for a long moment, just watching her breathe. Ryan found her in the living room an hour later, staring out at the city with a glass of wine she hadn't touched. "Tell me," he said. Elena didn't turn around. "Gerald found something. I don't know how, but he found evidence of the original contract, not the document itself. We destroyed all of that. But he found the bank transfers, the payments I made to you, the debt payoffs." Her voice was hollow. "He presented it to the board tonight, called it proof of fraud, said I'd fabricated a marriage to circumvent my grandfather's will." Ryan felt the floor drop out from under him. "How? We were so careful. He has resources. Forensic accountants, investigators. He must have been digging for months." Elena finally turned to face him. "The board is calling an emergency meeting, Monday morning. They're voting on whether to remove me as CEO. Can they do that? If they determine I've engaged in fraud or violated the terms of the inheritance, yes. Gerald's claiming that by creating a sham marriage, I invalidated the conditions of my grandfather's will, that the shares should default to him as the next in line." Ryan crossed the room, taking her hands. "We fight this. We show them the marriage is real now, that even if it started as an arrangement, it evolved into something legitimate. They don't care about that. All they see is the money trail, the fact that I paid you to marry me." Elena pulled away, pacing. "And it gets worse. Gerald's also threatening to go to family services with this information. He's saying that if I lose the CEO position, it proves instability, which means the custody arrangement should be reevaluated. He's using Emma as leverage, again. He's not going to stop until he destroys everything we've built. My company, your custody, our family, none of it matters to him. He just wants to win." Ryan felt rage building in his chest, hot and consuming. "Then we give him what he wants." Elena stared at him. "What?" "We call his bluff. I'll sign whatever he needs. A statement saying the marriage was my idea, that I pursued you, that the money was a loan, not a payment. We reframe the entire thing. That won't work. The timeline is too convenient. The debt was paid off the same week we got married. No one will believe it was coincidental." "Then we tell the truth." Ryan's voice was firm. "All of it. Yes, we entered into a contractual arrangement. Yes, money changed hands, but we also fell in love. We built a real marriage and a real family. The board wants to judge us for how it started? Fine. But they also have to acknowledge what it became. Ryan, if we admit to the contract, I'll lose everything. The board will have no choice but to side with Gerald." "Maybe. Or maybe they'll see two people who found each other in the middle of desperate circumstances and chose to build something real from it." He took her hands again. "I'm not going to let you fall on this sword alone. We're in this together, remember? For better or worse. We never actually said those vows, not for real. Then let's say them now." Elena's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" Ryan dropped to one knee right there in the living room, still holding her hands. Marry me, Elena. Not for shares or custody, or because a contract says we have to. Marry me because I love you, because I want to build a life with you and Emma, because every morning I wake up grateful that you walked into my disaster and decided to stay. We're already married, Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face. Legally, yeah, but I want the real thing. I want to stand in front of people we care about and promise to love you for the rest of my life. I want Emma to see us choose each other, not because we're trapped, but because we want to be. He squeezed her hands. So what do you say? Will you marry me? Again? Elena pulled him to his feet, kissing him hard. Yes. Yes, you impossible, ridiculous man. Yes. They held each other in the quiet apartment, and for a moment the fear receded. Whatever happened Monday, whatever Gerald threw at them, they'd face it together. But first, they had a wedding to plan. They decided to do it Sunday afternoon, small and quick before the board meeting, with only the people who mattered. Marcy arranged everything with terrifying efficiency, securing a small garden venue, a officiant, flowers. Emma was beside herself with excitement, insisting on wearing her fanciest dress and carrying flowers. Am I the flower girl? She asked for the 20th time. You're the most important flower girl in the history of flower girls, Elena confirmed, helping her with her hair. And after this, you're really my mom? Like, officially? Elena's throat tightened. If that's okay with you. It's super okay. I get 2 moms now. That's like winning the lottery. Ryan stood in the small room they designated as the groom's area, adjusting his tie for the 10th time. Bill Kowalski, who'd surprisingly accepted the invitation, clapped him on the shoulder. Nervous? Terrified. Good. Means it matters. Bill straightened Ryan's collar. You've had a hell of a year, Carter. Losing everything, rebuilding, finding this woman. You've earned some happiness. Thanks for coming, Bill. It means a lot. Wouldn't miss it. Besides, I wanted to meet the woman who's got you distracted at work half the time. Bill grinned. She must be something special. She really is. The ceremony was simple and perfect. Elena walked down the makeshift aisle alone. No one to give her away because she belonged to herself. Emma scattered flower petals with intense concentration, taking her job very seriously. And when Elena reached Ryan, she was smiling through tears. The officiant kept it brief. Ryan and Elena have chosen to renew their commitment to each other in front of the people they love. This isn't about legal documents or social expectations. This is about 2 people choosing to build a life together, choosing love even when it's complicated, choosing family even when it's unconventional. Ryan's vows came straight from his heart. Elena, when I met you, I was drowning. You threw me a lifeline, and then you jumped in the water with me. You're the strongest, most brilliant, most stubborn person I've ever met, and I'm so grateful you decided I was worth saving. I promise to show up for you, to fight beside you, to love you even when you're being impossible. Especially when you're being impossible. Elena laughed through her tears. Ryan, you saw me when I'd forgotten how to be seen. You made me believe I could be more than what I'd built my entire identity around. You gave me a family when I didn't even know I was lonely. I promise to love you and Emma with everything I have, to choose us every single day, no matter what anyone else thinks or says, to build a life that's ours, messy and real and completely imperfect. They exchanged new rings, simple bands they'd picked out together, inscribed with the date of this wedding, not the City Hall one. When the officiant pronounced them married, Ryan kissed Elena like it was the first time and the 1000th time all at once. Emma cheered and the small gathering of friends applauded, and for one perfect moment everything was exactly right. The reception was in a nearby restaurant, casual and warm. Emma monopolized Elena's attention, showing off her flower girl skills to anyone who would listen. Mrs. Rodriguez cried happy tears and told Ryan she'd known from the beginning that Elena was special. Marcy gave a toast about how she'd never seen Elena smile so much, and Bill told embarrassing stories about Ryan's first week on the construction site. But underneath the joy, Ryan felt the clock ticking. Tomorrow morning, they'd walk into that boardroom and face Gerald's accusations. Tomorrow, everything could fall apart. Elena found him on the restaurant's patio, taking a moment alone. You okay? She asked. Just thinking about tomorrow. Me too. She slipped her hand into his. But whatever happens, we did this. We chose each other for real. No one can take that away. What if they remove you as CEO? What if Gerald wins? Elena was quiet for a moment. Then I'll find something else. Build something new. I've spent my whole life proving I deserved my inheritance, trying to live up to my father's legacy. But today I realized the legacy I actually care about is the one I'm building with you and Emma. That's what matters. You'd really walk away from Vaughn Industries? If it came down to choosing between the company and this family? Yes, without hesitation. She looked at him. That doesn't mean I'm going down without a fight, but I know now what I'm really fighting for. They stood together watching the sunset, and Ryan felt something settle in his chest. Whatever happened tomorrow, they'd face it together, and that was enough. Monday morning came too fast. Elena dressed in her armor again, power suit, severe hair, the mask firmly in place. But when she kissed Ryan goodbye, when she hugged Emma and promised to be home for dinner, the mask cracked just enough to show the woman underneath. "Kick his ass," Ryan told her. "I intend to." The board meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. Ryan had offered to come, to testify if needed, but Elena had insisted she face this alone. This was her fight, her company, her legacy to defend or let go. So Ryan went to work, distracted and anxious, checking his phone every 5 minutes for updates that didn't come. At noon, his phone finally rang. Elena's name on the screen. "How bad is it?" he asked immediately. "It's over." Her voice was strange, flat and exhausted, but with something else underneath. Relief, maybe. Gerald presented everything. The bank transfers, the timeline, even hired a body language expert who analyzed photos of us from the first few weeks, claiming we looked uncomfortable and staged. And the board? Let me finish. After Gerald's presentation, I stood up and told them everything. The whole story, how we met, why I proposed the arrangement, how it evolved. I didn't hide anything, didn't make excuses, just gave them the truth. Ryan's heart pounded. What did they say? Margaret Hastings asked me if I regretted it, making the deal, entering into the arrangement. She wanted to know if I'd do it again, knowing how it would blow up. What did you tell her? I told her I'd do it again in a heartbeat, because that arrangement gave me everything that actually matters. A partner who sees me as a person, not a position, and a daughter who taught me what love actually looks like. Elena's voice cracked. And then you know what happened? Thomas Hastings stood up. He's been Gerald's ally this whole time, right? He stood up and said, "I've been married to Margaret for 30 years. Started as a business merger between our families. Our parents arranged it when we were in college. Took us 5 years to actually fall in love. But no one questions our marriage now because we chose to make it real. Maybe we should extend Elena the same courtesy." Ryan couldn't breathe. "What are you saying?" "The board voted, 9-3. I keep my position. Gerald's challenge failed." Elena laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. "He tried to destroy me with the truth, and instead it saved me." Relief flooded through Ryan, so intense it made him dizzy. "You won. We won, but there's more." Gerald didn't take it well, started yelling about fraud and corruption, threatened to sue the board, to go to the press with everything. And that's when Margaret dropped the hammer. Turns out Gerald's been embezzling from company accounts for the last 2 years. Small amounts, but consistent. They've been investigating quietly, waiting for enough evidence to move on it. He was stealing? While accusing me of fraud, he was literally committing it. The board offered him a choice: resign quietly and repay what he stole, or face criminal prosecution. He resigned, effective immediately. Elena's voice softened. "It's over, Ryan. He can't hurt us anymore." Ryan sat down heavily, the weight of 6 months of fear finally lifting. "I can't believe it." "Me either. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something else to go wrong. But Marcy just checked. Gerald's office is already cleared out. He's done." "What happens now?" "Now we go home. We have dinner with our daughter. We live our lives without looking over our shoulders." A pause. "And eventually, maybe we think about making this family even bigger if you want. No pressure, just something I've been thinking about." Ryan's heart skipped. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying I never thought I'd want this. Kids, family, the whole domestic thing. But Emma's changed me. You've changed me. And the idea of a baby who has your eyes and my stubbornness sounds kind of amazing." Elena laughed softly. "We don't have to decide now, but maybe it's something to think about." "Yeah," Ryan managed. definitely something to think about. They talked for a few more minutes, making plans for dinner, confirming Elena would be home by 6. When Ryan hung up, he stood in the construction site office feeling like the world had shifted on its axis. They'd won. Actually won. Gerald was gone, the board supported them, and Elena was talking about babies. Bill found him standing there, grinning like an idiot. Good news? Bill guessed. The best news. Then get back to work, Carter. Safety meeting in 5 minutes, and you're leading it. Ryan laughed and got back to work, his phone tucked safely in his pocket, the weight of fear replaced by something that felt dangerously close to hope. That evening, they celebrated with Emma at her favorite ice cream place. Emma got a triple scoop that was definitely too big. Ryan got mint chocolate chip, and Elena surprised them both by ordering strawberry with sprinkles. Sprinkles? Ryan teased. Who are you, and what did you do with my wife? Emma convinced me. She said life's too short for boring ice cream. Life's too short for boring everything, Emma declared wisely, her face already covered in chocolate. They ate ice cream and talked about everything except work and board meetings and Gerald. Emma told them about the science project she was planning. Ryan described the new building his crew was working on, and Elena admitted she'd never actually learned to ride a bike as a kid. We have to fix that, Emma insisted. We can teach you. Daddy taught me, and I only fell down like 1,000,000 times. Very reassuring, Elena said dryly, but she was smiling. Later, after Emma was in bed, Ryan and Elena sat on the balcony with glasses of wine, exhausted and relieved. I keep replaying the meeting, Elena admitted, the look on Gerald's face when Thomas defended us. When Margaret presented the embezzlement evidence, he really thought he'd won. Maybe he did teach you something, though. All those years of watching him scheme and manipulate, you learned how to see it coming, how to prepare. That's generous. Most people would say he made me paranoid and controlling. You're cautious. There's a difference. And considering what you were dealing with, I'd say that was smart, not damaged. Ryan took her hand. You survived, Elena. You didn't just survive. You built something incredible. You should be proud. I am. But I'm also tired. Tired of fighting, tired of proving myself, tired of looking for threats around every corner. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I want to just be. Is that allowed? Can I just be a CEO who goes home at 5 and doesn't check emails during dinner? Can I be a mom who takes Emma to the park without preparing talking points in my head? Can I be your wife without strategy or performance? Yes, to all of it. You're allowed to just be. Elena was quiet for a long moment. My father never could. He worked himself to death trying to prove the company could succeed without my grandfather's iron fist. And I was doing the same thing, working myself to death trying to prove I deserved what he left me. But what's the point of deserving something if you're too exhausted to enjoy it? No point at all. So maybe it's time to change that. Delegate more, trust my team, actually use the support system I've built. She looked up at him. Build a life instead of just a resume. I like the sound of that. Me too. She kissed him softly. Thank you for jumping into the deep end with me, for choosing this crazy, complicated life. Best decision I ever made. Well, second best. Emma's still number 1. As she should be. Elena smiled, though I'm hoping the baby thing might eventually tie for first place. You're serious about that? Kids? Terrified but serious. I have no idea what I'm doing with Emma half the time, and she came pre-programmed with language skills. A baby from scratch sounds impossible. Elena's hand moved to her stomach unconsciously, but also kind of wonderful. Creating something that's ours, together, giving Emma a sibling, building the family neither of us had growing up. Ryan pulled her close, his heart so full it ached. Then let's do it. Not right now. Let's enjoy the chaos-free version of our life for a minute. But soon, when we're ready. When we're ready, Elena agreed. They sat together watching the city lights, and Ryan thought about the journey that had brought them here. 6 months ago, he'd been standing outside an emergency room, desperate and drowning, with nothing left to lose. Now he had everything. A daughter who was thriving, a wife who saw him completely, a future that felt possible instead of terrifying. The road had been messy and complicated, built on desperation and convenience and a contract that no longer existed. But the destination was real. They were real. And that was worth every difficult moment, every fear, every fight. 3 months later, Emma started second grade with renewed confidence, Ryan got promoted to senior site manager, and Elena hired a COO to share the executive burden. They moved from the penthouse to a house in a neighborhood with good schools and a backyard where Emma could play. Elena learned to ride a bike. She fell down 12 times before she got it, and Ryan had never loved her more than when she kept getting back up, determined and stubborn and refusing to quit. The follow-up visit from Miss Morales was brief and positive. She noted the continued stability, Emma's happiness, and closed the case with a recommendation that no further oversight was needed. Jenna came by one Saturday to pick Emma up for the weekend. She met Elena properly for the first time, and there was a moment of awkwardness before Jenna said, "Thank you for loving her, for giving her stability when I couldn't." "She makes it easy," Elena replied. "You raised an incredible kid. We both did. And now you're doing it too." Jenna smiled. "I'm glad she has you, both of you." It wasn't perfect. Emma still struggled sometimes with the back and forth between houses, and Jenna's new husband Patrick tried too hard in ways that annoyed everyone. But it was functional, civil, good enough. And on a sunny afternoon in October, Elena took a pregnancy test that came back positive. She told Ryan that evening after Emma was asleep, showing him the little plastic stick with shaking hands. "We're having a baby," she whispered. Ryan stared at the test, then at her, then pulled her into his arms and held on tight. "We're having a baby." "I'm terrified." "Me too." "What if I'm terrible at this? What if I mess everything up?" "Then we'll figure it out together, just like we've been doing." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "We've got this." They told Emma a few weeks later, once they were past the scary early stages. Emma's reaction was to shriek with joy, then immediately start planning how she'd teach the baby everything she knew. "I'll show them how to color in the lines and how to make friends and how to tell if grown-ups are being fake nice or real nice," Emma announced seriously. "And I'll protect them from mean kids and help them with homework when they're older. I'm going to be the best big sister ever." "You absolutely will be," Elena said, pulling her close. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Elena had morning sickness that lasted all day, her body rebelled against the changes, and her control freak nature struggled with the unpredictability of it all. But Ryan was there for every moment, holding her hair back when she was sick, rubbing her feet when they swelled, talking to her belly when she couldn't sleep. And Emma was surprisingly helpful, bringing Elena water, reading to her when she was tired, gently talking to the baby about all the adventures they'd have together. The baby came in June, a healthy boy they named Marcus after Ryan's father. He had Elena's dark eyes and Ryan's easy temperament, and from the moment Emma held him in the hospital, she was smitten. "He's so tiny," Emma breathed, cradling him carefully. "Hi, Marcus, I'm your big sister. I'm going to teach you everything." Elena watched from the hospital bed, exhausted and in pain and happier than she'd ever been in her life. Ryan sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders, and together they watched their family grow. "We did it," Elena said softly. "We really did." "Think we can do it again?" Ryan laughed. "Let's survive this one first." But 6 months later, when Marcus was sleeping through the night and Emma had fully embraced her role as protective big sister, Elena brought it up again. "One more," she said. "I want one more." "You want 3 kids? You, Elena Vaughn, workaholic extraordinaire, want 3 kids? I want a big family. I want chaos and noise and too many schedules to manage. I want everything I didn't have growing up." She looked at him. "Is that crazy?" "Completely." "Let's do it." Their daughter Sophia came 2 years later, completing their family. Emma was 9, Marcus was 2, and Sophia was the surprise that brought everything full circle. A tiny girl who looked exactly like Elena, but had Emma's fierce independence and Marcus's easy laugh. They were loud and messy and constantly overwhelmed. The house was never clean, someone was always crying or fighting or demanding attention, and Ryan and Elena stumbled through parenting 3 kids while juggling demanding careers with varying degrees of success. But every night, after the kids were finally asleep, Ryan and Elena would collapse on the couch together and marvel at what they'd built. "Remember when this was a business arrangement?" Elena said one evening, her head on Ryan's lap while he played with her hair. "Vaguely. Seems like a lifetime ago." "It was. We were different people then." "Desperate people," Ryan agreed, "trying to survive. And now look at us, 3 kids, a mortgage, Emma's about to start middle school. We're disgustingly domestic." You love it. I really do. Elena looked up at him. Thank you. For taking a chance on a desperate stranger outside a hospital. For seeing past the Ice Queen to whoever I actually was underneath. Thank you for saving my life, literally and figuratively. We saved each other. Elena sat up, kissing him softly. That's how this works. Partnership. Real partnership. Not for shares or contracts or because we're obligated. Just because we choose each other every single day. Every single day, Ryan echoed. Emma appeared in the doorway, 10 years old now, and too smart for her own good. Are you guys being gross and romantic again? Absolutely, Elena confirmed. It's part of our charm. It's weird, but also kind of nice. Emma flopped onto the couch between them. My friend's parents don't even sit in the same room. You guys actually like each other. We do, Ryan said. Crazy, right? The craziest? Emma snuggled closer. But I'm glad you found each other, even if it started weird, because now we have Marcus and Sophia and this whole family, and that's pretty cool. Pretty cool, Elena agreed, her voice thick with emotion. They sat together, the three of them, in the quiet house with 2 kids sleeping upstairs, and a life they'd built from desperation and determination and love that neither of them had been looking for. And Ryan thought about that night outside the emergency room, broken and terrified with nothing left to lose. Thought about Elena's voice cutting through the darkness with an impossible offer. Thought about every moment since then, every fight and fear and small victory that had led them here. Sometimes life didn't go according to plan. Sometimes you lost everything and had to rebuild from nothing. Sometimes the best things came from the worst circumstances. And sometimes family wasn't about blood or tradition, but about choosing to show up for each other every single day. Their story had started as a transaction, cold and calculated and completely impersonal. But somewhere between the contract signing and the present moment, it had transformed into something real, something messy and complicated and absolutely worth fighting for. Because family wasn't about how you started. It was about choosing to stay, even when things got hard. It was about building something together that was stronger than what either person could create alone. And as Ryan sat there with his wife and daughter, listening to Elena laugh at something Emma said, feeling the warmth of home settle around him, he knew he'd make the same choice again. Every time. Without hesitation. This was his family. Chaotic and imperfect and built on the shakiest foundation imaginable. And it was everything he'd never known he needed.